get started here. My name is Bob Zeilish. We have a kind of a fun joint meeting tonight. This is a meeting of the Mason County Republican Party, the Manistee County Republican Party, and the Manistee Area Tea Party. We'll begin the meeting with a pledge of allegiance.
Where'd he go?
I
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
That sounds funny. Yeah. Let me switch. Okay, bow our heads in prayer. We come before you today to give you honor and praise. You are the source of all that is good. You are the source of all our blessings. Thank you for every gift that we have been given. We thank you for the opportunity to come together this day. We ask for your hand of blessing on this meeting. We ask that you would guide and direct our meeting so that it is full of wisdom and knowledge. We ask this in your name. Amen. Okay, a couple of general announcements. First of all, for the Tea Party, this is going to be our last meeting of the year. Our next meeting will be Thursday, January 16th. We'll be in touch with everyone between now and then. A couple of things. We have petitions here. Wait, like what? Go ahead.
Petition for dismemberment abortion if anyone that hasn't signed the petition yet, but wants to know more about it. You heard it, right? Okay. It's for dismemberment abortion, and we have the petitions here. If anyone has not signed it, we'd like to have your signature. You can come after the meeting and we'll be here, okay? Thank you. Oh.
Okay, Steve Yoder also has a petition to pass around during the meeting. Jack Bergman nominating petition.
Here.
It's over there. Penny has it back there.
Could it be different
Go ahead.
petitions for Manistee and Mason counties?
Yeah, you've got to make sure the right county, the petition you have. We have one for Manistee County and for Northern Mason County. Yeah. Okay, for our program tonight. This doesn't sound right. Is it working?
Yeah.
Is it? All right, for our program tonight, we do have a change. In addition to Steve Yoder, who's going to be speaking first, we have Lawrence Peter here with us tonight. He'll be speaking also. He's from Michigan GOP, and he's the new regional field director for Trump 2020 for Northern Michigan. With that, we'll go ahead and introduce Steve Yoder. He's a former member here. I wouldn't call him an old friend. Well, maybe a long-term friend would be a better way to phrase it. Steve is now a state committeeman for the Michigan Republican Party and chairman of our first congressional district Republican Party in Michigan. Thought this would be a good way to end the year, as he can recap a little bit what went on this past year and then talk about what's coming up in 2020. With that, welcome Steve.
Well, thank you, Bob. Whoop, is this on? Can you hear me?
Yep.
All right. Well, like Bob said, my name's Steve Yoder. I used to, it was about 7 years ago, where I lived in Manistee County here up in Bear Lake. So actually the Tea Party here is kind of where I got started in politics. So I owe my debt to the local Tea Party here, I guess. So, excuse me. With a little closer? All right. So with that, then about 7 years ago, I moved up to Leelanau County with the family there and stuff. I got a family business that we're involved, that I'm a part of, so moved everything up there, and from there I kind of got involved in more things, and got involved with the local county party there. Was a secretary there for a while, treasurer, and now I'm the vice chair of the local county party there up there. And then through that, got involved with the first district. So for those that are not aware of the first district is obviously encompassed by congressional district. And for those that are not aware, Jack Bergman, the Lieutenant General Jack Bergman, he's the current congressman of the first district. So as state party does it, in each congressional district, they have a chairman for the Republican Party in each district. So for a few years, I sat on there as an executive committee member, a vice chair on the committee there, and then a state committee here the last cycle. And the seat opened up, and I decided, hey, you know, why not? I guess I'll take on the chairmanship, as much as I didn't really want it, but I decided, hey, I might as well do it. So it's certainly been a learning experience, and definitely a lot of travels. You know, the first district is not a small district, I can tell you that. So, and just based on a little bit, to give you a little bit of perspective, the first district is actually the largest congressional district east of the Mississippi River. So, and it's in northern Michigan here of all places, and you know, it's pretty much, you know, I got just as much space below the bridge as I got above the bridge. So there's a lot of, I usually joke with people, you know, if I could drive all the way up to the western part of the UP, and I could drive to DC quicker than I can do that. So it's a big district, you know. So it's a lot of kudos goes to our congressman who travels that district, you know, daily, you know, meeting with constituents and things. So if you don't see him around a lot, he's probably one in the district meeting other people, you know. So he's doing a fine job at that. So with that, obviously, took on that position. I actually currently I'm a township board member in my local township. Involved in a lot of local and community politics, so I really enjoy doing that. Involved with a lot of zoning and stuff in my county and stuff. So I guess I got quite a few different hats that I wear. So, but right now tonight it's about the Republican Party that we're going to be talking about. So last year obviously was a big year for a lot of us. You know, we didn't know. You know, in 2016 we were quite, I guess, excited and shocked to see Michigan go for Trump. You know, I remember talking to people, you know, the day of, you know, when I went and casted my vote, that I said, well, I just split the district or the state to Trump. Well, it ended up happening. You know, it was by a slim margin that he was able to win the district, so, or the state. So a lot of it was, you know, to see, you know, what 18 was going to look like. You know, we didn't know. What was there going to be a referendum? As past history shows, that there's always, you know, a referendum on the president's agenda, you know, as you've seen in past. So it was interesting to see how Michigan would pan out. You know, as the year went on, obviously there was quite a few ballot proposals that got on the ballot as well. Looking back now, I think a lot of those, you know, that hurt the Republican Party, I think, more than anything with a lot of those ballot proposals. It brought a lot of people out that normally wouldn't have voted, you know, especially on the recreational marijuana side of things. So, but that's past and gone. That year is obviously, you know, if you look at the numbers, we turned the base out. Our base came out, and we spent a lot of money, you know, but the biggest keys in the state of Michigan that we did keep was the State House and the State Senate. That was key to reigning in government in the state and the accomplishments we've made in the state in the past 8 years. So that was certainly key, and you see it with a lot of what the state legislature is doing in Lansing right now. You know, they're holding the governor in line. You see what we passed with auto insurance. So it was a big success on the party in the state last year. Obviously, we didn't win everything, but I think one of the key people that we found out was a star was John James. And that's somebody that it's been a while since I've seen somebody in the state excite so many people across the state with his message that just resonates with everybody, you know. So he's obviously, excuse me, when he announced that he would be running for U.S. Senate again, it obviously excited a lot of people, you know, with that. And I feel like even you look at the Senate campaign, the U.S. Senate campaign across with a lot of the senatorials, just this last week, they released a video endorsing all their incumbents across the U.S. And they only endorsed one non-incumbent, and that was John James in the state of Michigan. So they really feel like they have a lot of momentum, I guess, with him on the ballot in the state here. So there's going to be a lot of money being spent in the state here. You know, because we obviously have a statewide race, and for those that are not aware, Gary Peters, even his own colleagues rate him as the worst colleague in the U.S. Senate. So you hear that even among his own colleagues, they have no respect for him. There's just not, just hasn't done much for Michigan in that respect. So I feel like John James has definitely got the upper hand, and that he definitely shocked a lot of people with as close as he got last year. So. So I certainly feel like he's a solid candidate going forward in that, you know. So, but looking a little bit at what it's looking like across the state right now, Trump and his campaign pretty much, you know, they looked at a lot of the states across the U.S. and Michigan in particular, I think, you know, I would dare say it was one of the biggest states that he won last cycle, because it was a state that a lot of people did not see coming that he ended up winning. So you see him putting in a lot of resources in the state here early on, and just to put into perspective, I guess, Michigan, according to the Trump campaign, is in their top 3 of any state in the nation right now. We're in the top 3. So, you know, we're in tier 1 as far as the money and the effort and the groundwork they're going to put into the state of Michigan here to try to retain that state for Trump. And I think we have a solid chance of keeping that state because, you know, even in my travels across the 1st District and, you know, especially in the UP, I mean, I can't tell you how many, you know, Blue Dog Democrats are out there actively supporting Donald Trump based on what he promised he would do for their mining industry and everything else like that. I mean, there is a lot of individuals up there that, you know, feel like they haven't been represented, and they finally found somebody that's representing them in that industry that promised them something that he's sticking to, you know, because literally every promise he's made, he's held, you know. So that's, you hear that argument a lot. So I think across the state, you're really there's a lot of excitement for that. But just to put a little bit in perspective what his campaign is doing in the state, right now, they have more staff in the state on the ground than at any other time in any election cycle, this early on. So they're putting all their resources into the state by putting a lot of people on the ground, starting that ground game and making those voter contacts and reaching out to those individuals. So I think that's a lot we have to look for. Not only just how many of you pay attention to, you know, national politics and whatnot, but there was an article that recently came out that the one county in the U.S. that's going to be watched the most is in the state of Michigan, and it's Kent County. That's one county. Out of all the counties in the U.S., that's one county that they're predicting is going to either win or lose for Trump. Because Kent County has shifted so much in the state because of all the millennials moving in that county. There's going to be a lot of attention drawn on Kent County. So you see all the attention that Michigan is getting right now. I'm anticipating, we've obviously seen the Vice President visit Michigan on a few occasions, and obviously earlier this year Trump was in the state, and I envision that happening quite a few more times, to be honest. So I know our state party chair is actually going out and saying she envisions at least a handful of times that they'll be making a visit in the state. So it's going to be the first time in quite a few years that as a state we're going to see what it looks like to actually be a battleground state. A lot of times you see that as Ohio or Florida where there's going to be a lot of attention, but as recent shift is shown, Ohio's shifting more and more conservative, and Michigan's actually a toss-up state. So we're going to see a lot of effort being put into that. District-wide, even if you look at the numbers that Congressman Bergman had in 16 versus 18, the amount of votes that he got in 16 versus 18 only went down by about 400 votes. So the momentum we have in the first district for conservative candidates and individuals like Trump is solid. There's solid energy behind that, and I only see us growing that, to be honest. There's obviously, my focus as chairman of the first district is obviously focused more locally. Excuse me. There's 2 state house seats in the first district that I'm going to be watching very closely. There's 3 of them in the first district that are open this cycle, and that's Speaker Lee Chatfield, who I'm sure everybody knows of. That his seat is term limited, so that's going to be an open seat, which is half of his district's in the UP, Chippewa and Mackinac County, and then the other half is below the bridge. That's going to be an open seat. Generally, that has been a safe seat, in the last couple cycles, but it's something, I envision us comfortably keeping that seat. The other open house seat is going to be Majority Leader Tristan Cole's seat, which is the Mansalona, Gaylord area, that region there. He's term limited as well, so that'll be an open seat as well. That'll be fairly safe. The other open house seat we have is obviously, I'm sure as everybody's aware of, is Larry Inman, Grand Traverse County. No idea what's going to come out there. He's obviously term limited, so we're preparing. That's obviously, that seat there has been getting tighter and tighter every time he's held that seat. And a lot of it, obviously, me being involved, excuse me, in the party as I am, the work we have had to put in that district has been exponential, and part of it, a lot of it blames on the candidate. It just wasn't the effort being put in there, and as you speak with a lot of his colleagues, they'll say the same thing. So I envision that seat is going to be, right now, in the House caucus, or the House Leadership Committee, in the state, they rate that as a top 5 seat in the state right now. So that's a seat that we're really going to be focused on in keeping. As you remember, I don't know if you remember, but this last cycle in 18, there was 1 state house seat that we flipped in the state. And I don't know how many of you remember, but it's all the way over in the western UP. All the way in the western UP, where Scott Dianda was running for state senate now. And that was an open seat in 18. We ended up flipping it by a very slim margin. So that's another house seat that I'm watching very closely to make sure we can retain that seat, because right now we only have pretty much a 3-seat majority in the state house right now. So we're running on the slimmest of slimmest margins. So, within the first district, we got the 110, which is all the way over in the western UP, and the 104, which is Grand Traverse County. That'll be pivotal to making sure we can keep the state house in the state, to make sure we can elect a new speaker, and keep, Governor Gretchen Whitmer in check, with all, as many of you see, I probably don't even have to tell you what all she vetoed and everything, because it's been pretty crazy with what's been going down there. But thankful to the House leadership, we've really been able to, they've been able to keep her in check. So in the first district, that's really what I'm focused on. We got the 106, which is over in the Alpena, down the Ottawa City area. That's Sue Aller, Representative Aller. She's got a 1 more term. We got Representative O'Malley, which is the representative here. He's in his first term. He'll be fine. We got another representative in the UP it has 1 more term left. So those are the 3 House seats, the 107, 105, and 104 that are open in the district that we're going to have to be putting a lot of effort into. So based on that, the first district's solid, and I feel like, we have to rally behind, our congressman, because for those that have not met him, he's a straight shooter. He talks the talk, and he goes to DC and isn't blunt about it. I heard him just here a couple months ago, because in the U.S. House, it seems like they're playing a lot of games right now with the whole impeachment thing. He has a bill in committee that he wants to get voted on to improve the VA system. And the chairman of the committee refuses to take it up for a vote, won't do it. He literally took him face to face and asked him, why are you not willing to do this? And the chairman of the committee pretty much said, I don't want to. We're not going to focus on doing any improvements in that area. you know, and he said, I would have liked to grab him by the tie and tell him, what the world? Because here our veterans are suffering, and you're more focused on about impeaching our president than you are about improving veterans' lives. So that's the mess you got going on in DC right now, you know, and just to cover a little bit on the hearings and stuff. What you're seeing right now, you know, and to be quite clear with everybody, to watch what you're seeing unfolding on TV and what you're seeing unfolding across the nation and everything, the other side is furious right now. And there's only to me, one reason why. And you see Trump, when he got in there, he didn't hold back on anything. He's going in there and exposing corruption like I've never seen a president do before, you know. And to them, that's the number one reason why I feel they're fighting back so hard, is because the corruption that's being exposed is making them fight back even harder. But guess what? The Attorney General in there, you know, I'm sure many of you saw here just a couple days ago that December the 9th, he's going to be releasing something as well. So it's the corruption that you know, I feel like Trump, when he was running for president, he termed it perfectly. It's a swamp, and that's what it is. And that's literally what you're seeing right now, how deep that swamp is right now. And I think the American people are smart enough to see that. There's numerous people across Michigan that I've met that said I've never, ever voted in my life before until 2016, because I saw a candidate that would actually stick to what he does. And these are people that are well older than me, you know. So it's very encouraging to see, you know, the energy that he has brought up. That activates a lot of people. There's a lot of energy out there, and it's important that we stick with that, you know, because there's energy there that I have never ever seen in a candidate before. And obviously I'm a young guy, so a lot of you are going to know a lot of previous presidents that have. So, but based on just what I'm seeing, you know, it seems like he thrives off of criticism like nobody ever has. You know, there's the stories I hear of congressmen going and, you know, they have dinner with him or lunch with him, and they ask him, like, why don't you go down? I mean, this doesn't get him. He goes, no, I thrive off of it. And there's a word, you know, I know one congressman said, you know, he'll start his day watching Fox and Friends, and then he'll switch over and watch CNN just to get him excited to go out there and get to work, you know? So, and that's literally, you know, just watching him, that's literally what he does. He just thrives off of that criticism because it gets him motivated out there to go out there and get the job done. And I don't think anybody's gotten the job done better than he has. So it's important that we stand with him, even in the state, be vocal, you know, obviously be respectful, but let's be vocal in why we support him, because he's made promises and he's kept them like no one ever has. So, and I think, to be quite honest, I think he's going to win bigger than he did last cycle, just based on that. So, and I think the state of Michigan's going to be, it's obviously, I think it's going to be close again, but I think we'll pull it out. So, it's just, you know, you see that with the state party, even the RNC, the way they're raising money right now at record amounts. You know, we've got great leadership in place right now to take this on, and even in the state party, we've got great leadership in place, and they're laying the ground game and putting the effort in there to really get going early, you know. So I feel very positive with the direction we're heading and the enthusiasm that's out there. I think we're heading in the right direction. I know we are. So, but the key to this cycle is making sure you talk to every neighbor you can, every relative you can, and everybody you know, to get out there and educate them and let them know what, you know, what's coming up, and educate them and what they need to do, because we need all boots on the ground we can, whether it's writing a letter to the editor, whether it's talking to your neighbor, whether it's knocking on the door or making a phone call. It goes a long way to helping the team out and delivering victory for us. So with that, that's kind of a recap, I guess, of what's going on district, state, in my opinion. So I'm going to open it up to some questions. If anybody has questions, I'll try to answer them to the best that I can. I certainly don't know everything, but I will certainly take any questions I can. So does anybody have any questions out there, I guess? Any?
1 minute.
How are efforts going in Detroit?
With the turnout there and stuff?
Yeah, just, I know that there's a focus on Detroit and trying to bring along the black vote.
Yep, that's a good question. There was, in the past, I'd say ever since an effort put in, to really put an effort into having a ground game there in Detroit. And ever since, I think it's been 14, the state party has held a year-round office open in Detroit. So, whether we're gonna see that pay off or not, it's like somebody else said, if John James would just win 25% of Detroit, he'd carry the state, literally, because that's how well he does across the state. Obviously there's gonna be a lot of effort put into that. The counties that are the biggest issue in the state that we're really gonna have to focus on if we wanna win statewide is obviously Macomb County and Kent County. Those are the two counties that are really, because you just saw Kent County here, there's an 18 flip Democrat for the first time in a long time. So those are the two counties that we're really gonna have to focus on in ensuring that we can deliver victory statewide, So Detroit is obviously one that we're gonna focus on. And it's obviously they're putting a lot of effort and work into that, into knocking a lot of doors and reaching out to those voters, so.
Hey Steve, what's the issue with Kent County and the millennials?
Well, if you look at anywhere in the state, especially in the last couple of years, the only place that's really grown in the state of Michigan is Kent County. And you see a lot of, and I don't know how many of you have been down to Grand Rapids lately in that area, but that's one area in the state where housing is booming and they're trying to build as fast as they can because of the growing population down there. But it's not just retirees that are moving there, it's millennials that are moving there. And that's the shift you're seeing, and that's why this cycle, there's gonna be a lot of attention drawn to Kent County to try to reach out to those voters, because there's a lot of new people that are moving in that area, younger people, that, we feel we have a good shot at reaching them and giving them a message as to why, the solutions we brought forward and the tactics that we've done have worked and have helped drive the economy in the right direction. So, I certainly feel good about Kent County.
Here's another question. I know that mic is not pulled right close.
I know in 2016 when they were trying to do the recount, I think it was the Detroit area, Wayne County, that they could not recount because of all the errors. And that obviously, after being on the Board of Canvassers, obviously the Board of Canvassers didn't do their job. So, but part of what I think we need to do is make sure that we have a good amount of poll challengers there. Is that in a plan in some of these bigger counties where there are, like in Kent County, in Macomb County, in Wayne County? Or do they have any kind of plan on getting people to go down there to be poll challengers and maybe watch what's going on? Some of these counties that were uncountable before.
Yep. That's a loaded question.
I guess they should, that's
Right.
what I'm saying.
No,
That would be a big
I completely
area.
agree with you, and I just heard a report here, there was some training up in Gaylord here, just a couple weeks ago where they were talking about being poll challengers and stuff, and I guess there's word out of municipalities in the Detroit area that if you go in there to vote, you'll find a big sign in there, people campaigning, type of thing. I mean, that's how corrupt it's down there, so, I know, based on the 16, when they were doing the recount there, I know the current Secretary of State, Ruth Johnson, filed a lawsuit to try to dig into this. Nothing ever really came out of it, sadly. But the corruption down there, I think, is so deep. It's almost insane. You got to go on the outer suburbs of Detroit and start trickling your way in there and start siphoning away at making sure the corruption goes down in that area, and eventually we'll get to that area. So.
How does it happen, and why does it never get corrected? Do you have any idea?
It's hard for us to grasp up here in northern Michigan. We're in rural northern Michigan. We go in to vote, everything's legal. You can't leave that polling place until the books are balanced. Period. You can't, you know? So it's hard for us to imagine how Detroit actually works. How do they actually do that, you know?
Have more voters than they have registered.
Well, then that's part of the problem. The books ain't clean in the way, you know, before election day starts, you know. I honestly really don't know how that process goes down because it's hard for me to even grasp here in northern Michigan. That's uncalled for up here, you know. I was a poll challenger here, or not a poll challenger, but a poll election worker, you know, 8 years ago or so, and I stayed in that polling place till about midnight because I couldn't leave because the books wouldn't balance, you know. And we finally figured out the problem, and there was one little mathematical error where we had to correct, and then the books balanced and we could take off, you know. But we're not allowed to leave that, you know. But downstate, I don't know what goes on, you know. It's tough telling actually what goes on and how they force those books to balance. There's no way those books balance when they leave, so.
You know, this finding boxes of ballots all over the place just tickles my inner
Well,
just, it's hard to believe, you know,
it's-
oh, I found a box over here, oh, there's another box over there, you
Well,
know?
it's interesting you bring that up because you even watch down in Florida and even Arizona in those tight races. When they go start recounting and start dragging on, you know who always gets more votes? Democrats. It's really interesting to see that, but they always go, oh, I found this box in the trunk of my car. You know, you hear those reports, you know, it's crazy. But there's obviously serious corruption out there, you know, so it's important in the state of Michigan where I'm assuming it'll be a tight race again, that we in northern Michigan push that vote out as hard as we can, you know, because you know, in Michigan, Trump won by what, was it 10,704 votes or something like that? I always joke and tell people if it wouldn't have been for the UP, Michigan would have went blue, you know, that's how tight it was, you know, so northern Michigan is critical to delivering for our candidates, you know, even though we felt for years, you know, that we don't get the attention up here, our votes matter up here, they matter.
We have another question here. Hold it close, I think its battery's getting.
We had 3 days of entertainment on TV the last few days about the impeachment. In the House, is that gonna change anybody's mind? Will the vote change at all?
No, I don't think it will, and I think the further this goes on, the more people are gonna see what's actually gonna happen, and I don't know how many of you saw today, there was a poll that came out, and I don't know how many of you actually read the polls.
You know, registration same day, we have, this last election we had here in town, we had a tremendous increase in the number of write-ins, and I'm a poll challenger, I'm a canvasser, I'm on the board of canvassers. And there are a lot of factors that are gonna fold in together that can create a very different outcome if we haven't got, besides the chaos, but we haven't got, I don't hear a step plan, an actual action plan on the part of the Republican Party to address these various areas. The money isn't going to do it. There has to be a better plan.
Right, yep, and you bring up a key point there. One of the ballot proposals that passed in 18, you know, was same-day voter registration and all that kind of stuff. That remains to be seen how that ballot proposal will actually work in the state of Michigan here. You know, a lot of people projected, you know, there's going to be a lot of people, you know, registering to vote on the same day and going in and voting. Based on my previous couple elections, smaller elections we've had, it wasn't a ton. You know, but my biggest question to that is, how are you going to stop somebody from going to one place, registering to vote, walking out and going over to the next place, register to vote? There's no way the system is in place to update that. Penny, yep.
Yeah, there is a system. The Secretary of State has instituted a real-time registration. So it would block somebody going from one place to another. So it does, it might be a little
So,
comfort, but yes,
And
yes.
you do have to prove residency.
right.
Either with
Yes.
your driver's license or utility bill in your name.
Right. So a question for that is then, a lot of these rural towns are going to have to have internet at their township with their vote.
Yep.
Yes, which we finally did that.
Well, and that's the thing where you put a lot of burden on a lot of these smaller townships. You know, my township I represent, we don't have internet at our call. We got to spend the money now to bring internet in there so we can do this. You know, so there was a lot of added expenses on there like that. But the way the state party's looking at this, they don't, a lot of that's hard to factor in right now, how that exactly is gonna affect us and everything, but, that's why it's important for everybody in here to be a poll challenger, because not only are you challenging votes that are coming in, but we're marking off people as they vote, because we gotta do our voter day, same day voter push that we're pushing to try to get our people out to vote. So if we have there people that are challenging, we gotta have people that are marking people off that vote and make sure we get our voters out, because that goes into a database and we know who all voted and we know how our base is turning out. So, you got a question back there?
Yeah, here's one, Steve.
Steve, what do you, as party chair, what is the most important thing that the state can do for you? The Trump campaign or the state GOP? What are you looking for from them?
Well, as I go around speaking to groups and stuff, the number one thing I tell people is I need you to be active in your community, because that's the best thing that you can do for party leadership. Be active in your community, Yeah, we're going into the holidays right now, and yeah, I don't expect anybody to do, go out there and pound the doors and stuff, but when the ground breaks next year, and, it's important that we start putting events together, to draw people in, to get people excited, because that's the number one thing we have to do as a party. Yeah, Trump does it really good. He'll hold around and he'll have thousands of people show up, But in a small community like this, it's important that we educate the people in how to go about, whether it's writing letters to the editor, whether it's knocking doors or making phone calls. Every little piece like that makes a huge difference in how you can affect and help your county party out in that area, because those are resources that reaches a lot of voters, in the state, and it starts at the community level. But the number one thing you can do for party leaders is being active in your community and helping out and reaching those contacts, because that's the biggest struggle, excuse me, as county parties, is reaching out to the people in your community and helping out your county parties and making those voter contacts and making sure, that we can identify those voters who they are, so we can ensure they get out the vote.
We have a question here, Steve.
One of my concerns, and I don't know how many of you have really looked around, but in the last 4 years, the number of people coming out of those cities that are mostly Democratic have been moving north. And I know we're getting a lot of them over in Wexford County. I presume you are here. What has been your voter base is not going to be the same. And you need to be aware of that. You need to be working on those people that are coming up here to enjoy what you have earned up here and the kind of government that you have here, as well as your surrounding counties. I think you need to be working with the surrounding counties to get that point across, because those people worked in the kind of jobs where if they weren't Democrats, they wouldn't have had a job. In the big car factories and things like that. And you need to be aware. They're not like people sitting here that are a little older and more mature and have seen what life is really like. Okay? Thank you.
Yep. Well, and that's exactly my point, the point that I was going to make. Leelanau County, we've went Republican for I don't know how many years. 18, we went blue for the first time in years. And that goes a lot, even the 7 years that I lived up there, the amount of people that are moving in and developing along the Lake Michigan shoreline, along the bay there, is just astronomical. And most of those people you meet are moving up from Chicago, Detroit. Those are the people that are retirees moving up there. They, most of them are just summer homes, winter, they take off for out of state, they're gone, but they vote there, so that's, in my home county, that's the biggest thing we're having to reach out and just educate those people, because a lot of times, sad as it is, yeah, you live in that community, but they bring their values with them and it changes the community, so that's the biggest struggle we've had in my county up there at least, is, just making sure we can keep the community as it is, even, as a local elected official, when you want to do zoning or different things like that, yeah, it's great to have these ideas, but there's a reason we live in a rural community, because we love it and we love the quietness up here. So it's certainly an issue that we're going to have to focus on and work on.
Here's another question.
I do think the point that was made about the people moving and the voter mix is extremely important, but I also, as a poll challenger up in Arcadia, It was very interesting. I spent my day, part of it at least, and you were there second half, watching what they were doing and challenging what they were doing. I find that in a lot of these townships, there's a lot of turnover in the people who are working the polls. It's an education issue, and I know our clerk here is working very hard to educate all the clerks, but that's us. Then there's the rest of the state. This is where a lot of problems will start. And they do exist already, and all they'll be is refined in the new 2020 election. There is so much wiggle room that it's almost an underestimated area of problems. So poll challenger would be a very important area to look at and get people out there. And the most important thing is to have, in every poll, have somebody ready to challenge. I, in my former life, was an election judge in Chicago. And I did watch how elections, on the night of the election, can be manipulated and changed. And at that point, of course, the Dems swept it. But that is exactly how it's done. It starts very, very local, and it just builds.
Right. Well, and that drives home to my point about being involved locally. Yes, you got to make those voter contacts, but if we're not involved as individuals in our community, we have no right to complain, in my opinion. So, the number one step we can take is being involved in our local townships. Help out your clerk, be an election worker, type of thing. Because it's people like us. Yes, in every precinct that I'm aware of, you have to have a half and half split. Equal amount of Democrats and Republicans in the room to help vote. But sometimes those clerks are out there looking for people. Make sure they're aware that that you're available to help out, because there's obviously trainings and stuff that go into that as well. So I'm sure Penny can speak to that a ton. So.
We can't get Democrats to work.
Oh, really?
My township is not the only one. The
Okay.
Dems do not go out and volunteer to work as poll workers. It's incredible.
Well.
So we have to say, okay, you get to be the Democrat this election. And I'm not the only clerk that does it, because we're so frustrated. We can't get a Democrat to show up or work.
Right. Well.
So that takes, maybe they're all mouth and no do.
Yeah. Well, I don't know, but it's important to stay involved locally as much as you can.
Another thing is too, it wouldn't hurt if everybody would, maybe waylay an enjoyable event and go to some of the meetings in the area. The commissioners' meetings, the township meetings, the planning meetings, all kinds of meetings. And some of us go to a lot of them, and you do learn a lot in how to function in those meetings and how government functions. And it's a pretty educational situation most of the time. I've been going to the commissioners' meetings for quite a while, and the township, the road commission meetings is amazing. That a lot of times I'm the only one there, and so your opinion, when you give it, it does carry a little bit more weight than as if there were 50 or 75 other people there. So everybody, if they just try to get to a few of their local meetings, it would sure help educate the public as far as what's going on in our government.
No, that's a great point, and it just drives home into even in the state of Michigan here. This is going to be the first time in I don't know how many years that we're going to be a battleground state. We're going to realize the importance it is to turn out the vote. Because you look at Ohio. They constantly have close to an 80% turnout every cycle. They're a battleground state. The people are aware of that. But it's important that we turn out our base this cycle, and that starts with each one of you. Going out there, reaching out to those people and making sure they're educated and know what's coming, because it's going to be pivotal to make sure we turn out the vote. So.
And it doesn't necessarily have to be political either. You can just do what's right for the community and what's right within your mind, more than anything else. And hopefully that'll get to the good results in the end. Because Steve and I talked about that earlier, how much influence a few people can have in a committee. Because he's on the zoning board. You should tell him that story you told me about the curbs. That could be kind of interesting.
Yeah.
So
I can share that story. So in Little County, I sit on my township board and I sit on my township planning commission as well. Well, anyway, we had a local business come in there that they build green roofs and all types of things, but they're a small agricultural business that came into a back country road that they wanted to put in. Well, anyway, we approved them. And one condition we put on them, as we do with any business in our township, is you have to get approval from the road commission. You know, to make sure your driveway is up to standard and meets the specs and everything. Well, as we go through this process, we find out, you know, the road commission might require them to put a curb and gutter in, you know, on a backcountry road. So majority of us planning commissioners felt there, no, we don't want to do that. So we're gonna make a vote, and we're gonna recommend that the road commission not require them to do that. Anyway, took the vote, passed it, and off it went, and they went to get approval from the road commission. Well, we come to find out, the road commission pretty much ignored our vote and said, no, you're required to put a curb and gutter in there. They're never gonna have a semi-driver pull into that driveway on a backcountry road where you might have 50 cars on the day, you know.
Tell them what it costs, Steve, for them.
So, to put a curb and gutter up there in Leelanau County costs about $15,000 to put that in, okay? The road commission, in order to ensure that you put that in there, they make you put down a $15 escrow. So you have to give them $15,000 to guarantee that you'll put it in, then do $12,000, $15,000 to put the curb in, and then they'll give you that $15,000 back once you got it done. It's crazy. So when I found this out, I decided, okay, this is nonsense. I'm gonna get involved here. So I started getting involved a little bit. I found one of my county commissioners, who happens to be a Democrat, was fighting this issue as well. So I joined her and I got involved, and there's about 10 business owners, wineries in the area, because with the road commission's policy, anything that's deemed commercial has to put a curb and gutter in. Anything that's deemed commercial, unless you're residential or agriculture, you wouldn't have to. So you can have an agricultural orchard in the backcountry road and have 10 semis a day during peak season go in there, you wouldn't be required to put a curb and gutter in. But a small little doggy kennel, like just down the road from me, that is a doggy daycare kennel, was required to put a curb and gutter in because they're deemed commercial. So we went to the road commissioner and said, guys, this is crazy. You know, you're putting businesses at risk. We have businesses that are not willing to come in here because there's a cost here that's just not working. You know, and we put a lot of pressure on, a lot of pressure. We had, you know, at a normal road commission meeting, they had 1 to 2 people show up. We had about 20 people packed that room. We had 7 to 4 news come in there and put the pressure on them. Well, anyway, they agreed, they held a vote, agreed, they'll form a committee, and we, as a committee, us, the citizens, get to bring them a proposal to see if they want us to adopt it. We worked on it for a couple months. We did tons of research, hours on the internet, pulling stuff, and come to find out they wouldn't cooperate with us because they'd say they got a road commission book that they go off their standards by. Well, can we have the book? No, we had to pay for it. You're not going to allow to see it. All right, so we had to start from scratch, going through all this process. Well, anyway, it took us months and hours of research. Finally came up with a document, brought it to them. It was about 20 pages long. I mean, you should have seen the faces, their face, watching them look through that. I mean, they were blown away with what we had brought to them. Blown away. A couple of them were like, this is incredible. Wow, I've never seen this before. One of the guys, he was not convinced. I'm not supporting it, period. Because the engineer of the road commission would refuse to support it, wouldn't support it. Well, anyway, we kept bringing the heat, and the chairman of the road commission was all for it. He was supporting us in this, and this is why we were allowed to get in here in front of the committee. Well, anyway, we kept doing our research, condensed it a little bit more, and everything, and kept the news media on them. The local newspaper was covering it, you know, covering our story of the pressure we're putting on them, and attending all these meetings every month now. And it was about 6 months later, after all this research, condensed it down to about 1 or 2 pages, brought it to them and said, all right, here it is. And we pretty much said, any commercial, unless you have 6 semis a day coming in there, you don't have to put a curb and gutter in. Period. I mean, it was a major shift. It passed unanimously. Because of the attention we brought on that, saving business owners $15,000. Now, they even changed the escrow and said, no, you don't even have to give us an escrow anymore. You can just do, you know, we'll just get a bank statement from you and say, you know, you're good to go, you know, type of thing. So it was a huge win in our community, and a lot of wineries were excited because these wineries were deemed commercial, even though they're agriculture. You know, they had to put these in. So it's the small effort you can do in your little community by just simply being a voice, being respectful, but being a voice. It goes a long way to changing a community, and you can make a difference. So
it's little things that keep businesses from moving in, and do add up after a while,
Yep.
especially in frustration department, so.
It does. You can definitely make a difference. So I think my time's coming up here. I just wanted to remind everybody of the Jack Bergman nominating petitions. If you haven't signed it yet, please sign it. If there's anybody here from Mason County, you gotta be sure you're in the first district, because the first district cuts Mason County's in half. So make sure you live in the first district, and in Manistee County, you're all in the first district, so you should be good to go. But yep, I'd appreciate as much signature as possible. But I want to thank everybody again for allowing me to come here and keep up the fight.
All right, moving right along, introduce our new Regional Field Director for Trump 2020, Lawrence Peter. Welcome.
Thank you, Bob. Thank you. And does anyone need to stand up or go to the washroom or anything like that? All right. Well, thank you very much. I want to thank first Steve for putting me in contact with Bob, and Bob giving me the opportunity. I drove up today from Hillsdale County. I joined Trump 2020 officially on Monday, so you're the first group that I've had a chance to visit with, and I'm very glad. I don't know this area real well. I live in Hillsdale, and I came to Hillsdale only about 5 years ago from Virginia Beach, where when I retired from the Navy, that was my last duty station. As happens so many times in the service, you wind up staying your last duty station, and then, you know, one thing or the other happens. But before I get into all that, I just want to say, regarding what Steve was talking about, a couple of questions, I had two things I wanted to mention. First off, can you hear me? Yes. If you haven't listened to Attorney General William Barr's comments, both at Notre Dame about 3 weeks ago, you can find it on YouTube, Bill Barr, Attorney General, Notre Dame, or at the Federalist Society last Friday. If you haven't listened to them, both his presentations are about 30, 45 minutes long. Do it. Don't think about it. Write it down. Bill Barr, Notre Dame, Bill Barr, Federalist Society. Listen to him. He is outlining a framework of who we are and what we are as a republic and why we're constructed the way we are. At Notre Dame, he talks about the relationship of civic virtue, of God, and of our republic. At the Federalist Society, he talked about the presidency and the natural conflict that develops in our three branches of government, and how that relates to what is going on now. And it's a very good refresher at this time in the 21st century of who we are and what we should be as a republic. Second thing, you know, during this last few years, I spent a lot of time in Iraq. And I don't need to go into that a whole lot, except that I was in part involved with the election process in the first elections that they'd ever had in Iraq. And one of the ways that we helped establish electoral integrity, because everyone was worried about, well, they might register here and then vote here and vote here and vote here. What are we going to do? And so we had those purple bottles of ink. And I'll tell you, when someone puts their finger in that ink, they can't go anywhere else and vote. And the Iraqis were so proud to show that they had voted. You'd see Iraqi women going down the road with their finger up. And we took magic markers and we started painting our fingers. And when we'd see Iraqis like that, we'd hold up our finger as well to show them that we're with them. And they were so proud of that opportunity. We'd done good over there. It didn't end well, but we did good. And it's very important. You know, I want to thank the groups that are here tonight. I guess we have Manistee and Mason County Republican parties represented in the Manistee Tea Party, which is sort of an amalgam now, sort of merged in with Mason. You guys are great. I'm glad that you're willing to have me here. You know, my first patriotic memory was when I was shorter than this table, and I was walking with my dad, who would be about 102 and a half years old if he were still alive, and with some other veterans, and we're walking down a parade, and I had a little green fatigue uniform, and those guys were the greatest generation, we're told. The problem with the greatest generations, they gave us everything that they didn't have, but they gave so few of us the things that they did have. And so we have a lot of people now who are saying, oh, why don't we try out this socialism? Why don't we try out some of this other crazy ideas that you hear about there? And, you know, and our parents were so busy giving us the things that they lacked. They grew up during, the end of the First World War. They grew up during the Depression. They went off and they fought in World War II and they fought in Korea. And they said, yeah, you know, it's going to keep going, but it's like Ronald Reagan said, freedom is only one generation away from being lost. And so all of us here have taken that pledge to our republic. And that's just one of many pledges that we wind up taking in our life. There is a number of people. In fact, let me ask right now, how many fathers do we have in here in this room? Raise your hand. All right, now if you're a grandfather, keep your hand up. All right, that's pretty good. Do we have any great-grandfathers in here? All right, well, fathers are the people. Congratulations, sir. How many? 11 great-grandchildren? God bless you, too. God bless you. God bless everyone here, by the way. Not that, Wow. Wow. Now, we have a number of veterans, too, I think, and all the veterans, like we took that pledge, all of us in here, men and women, to the Republic. Those of us who are veterans took the pledge to support and defend the Constitution of the United States against all enemies, foreign and
Domestic.
correct. Correct. How many of the men or women here have taken that pledge? Okay, we've got quite a few. Are you all Army? How many Army? Army? How many Navy? How many Marine Corps? Well done, sir. Semper Fi. How many Coast Guard? Are there any Air Force in here? Oh, thank God. I was worried for a moment. Well, you know, when I went into service 40 years ago, the enemy were communists. We're going to kill communists. And we were killing communists. We were killing communists in Vietnam. We killed communists in Korea. We were ready to kill communists. Every single person in here did duck and cover, except maybe you, Steve. I don't know. Not that there's anything wrong with that. It's a good thing. That is one of the things the greatest generation gave us. They said, by God, we are drawing the line against communism, against atheism. We believe in God. We believe in our rights as independent citizens. And we're going to do what it takes. And they did it. We've done it. But the fight isn't over, men and women. So I went overseas. You know, we won the Cold War, right? Everyone's happy clappy. It's over! We had the peace dividend. You remember that? Back in mid-1990s. Bill Clinton, let's cut this military. We started BRAC, and we're cutting bases left and right and left and right. In the meantime, what we didn't realize is that there are a lot of watermelons out there. Anyone know what a watermelon is? Green on the outside and red on the inside. So I went over to Iraq as a civilian. First time I was ever in government. As part of the occupation government. I worked over there in the Ministry of Interior, and we were trying to imbue them with the ideas of republicanism. Now we can talk all night, and I'll be here as long as anyone wants to talk about how useful or how futile what we did in Iraq was. But the idea, for me at least, was while I was over there trying to do that, we had watermelons over here who were actually termites who were hollowing out the integrity of our country. They're hollowing out the integrity of our republic. You know, my mom used to say, son, I love you. I love you with all my heart. But you got a face for radio, and you've got a voice for the newspapers.
I get it.
All right. So I think many of you, like me, we've seen our country slipping away. You know, it was a very interesting thing. A very unlikely candidate popped up on the political scene in 2004, 2005. 2004 made a major speech at the Democratic National Convention. And son of a gun if that guy wasn't elected in 2008 to fundamentally transform our country. And how many of us just saw that slipping away, our country being transformed in front of our eyes, the very aspects of our country being weaponized against us. Gibson guitar, for those of you paying attention. How about that young woman down there in Texas with her Tea Party, and she was weaponized with the IRS and half a dozen other agencies. It was game on. And we can serve as, by the way, did I hear that there is a Democrat in here somewhere?
Yes, you did.
That's okay, man.
Me too.
That's okay. I'm glad you're here.
Yes, I agree.
Good. Well, you know, there was a man who led that campaign for him in 2008. And he said just in June of 2016, 13 June 2016, and I am quoting verbatim from his tweet. Don't believe me? Look it up. And he said, and remember, he was a political director for number 44. He ran the campaign in 2008. He said, "It is not enough to simply beat Trump. He must be destroyed thoroughly. His kind must not rise again." Well, who is his kind? Who is his kind? That's you, sir, in the Trump hat. That's you, and you, and you, and that's all of us. We're his kind if we voted for him. We're his kind if we took that durable oath to support and defend the Constitution of the United States against all enemies, foreign and domestic. We are his kind. When we wrap our hands around the flag as we saw him do, we take that pledge to our republic. We're his kind. You know what? A long time ago, some men, 56 men, signed a different sort of pledge. And they said, "We pledge our lives, our fortunes, and our sacred honor as we try establishing this republic." And so I ask all of you today, can you pledge any less as we go forward? You are warriors in the 2020 campaign. Donald J. Trump needs every single one of you, and you too, ladies, too. You're welcome to come aboard if you want. Come join us. We need you. We got a lot of stuff going on, and we're going to get it done. Being the field coordinator up here, I'm trying to reach out to all the groups. We're going to be flooding not just this area so much, but Region 2 is going to get a lot of extra support in here as we try and organize and get it together. Someone said, it was Steve. His brilliant talk, I thought. Steve said, you have to get out the vote. The one thing that matters, voting. Now you can write letters to the editor, that's good. But if they don't turn up at the polling station next November, we lose. Just like that. So what are we going to lose? What does that mean? How does that translate? Manistee, Wexford, Mason, Lake, the four countries, like a little four-pack down here, right? You have 72,000 active voters. That means that 72,000 of the people who are registered to vote, and there are more people than 72,000 registered to vote, 72,000 have voted at least once in the last 8 years. All right? That's a pretty good group. That's a pretty healthy group. Because the population is just something under 100,000 total. All right? How many voted in 2016? 29,000 for Mr. Trump, and I'm rounding off numbers here, and 16,000 for his opponent. So that means that 27,000 were left on the table. 27,000 people who are active voters, not voters that we have to go out and register, first-time voters, not, gosh, I don't know, not people who are moving in or anything like that. These are people who are voting, our neighbors and friends who chose not to vote in 2016. And it's your responsibility to help us get them out, if you believe, as I do, that our republic is slipping away. You know, it comes down to numbers. You can talk about, hubba, hubba, look at all the money that Mr. Trump has made in the last cycle. Every time someone in Congress on one side of the aisle says something nasty about Donald Trump and you get that message on your cell phone from 88022. He says, it's the MAGA 4-time swap. We're going to give, for every $10, we're going to add another 40 and it's going to make it 50 and hubba hubba. Is that a vote? No, it isn't. So we got a lot of work to do. Those of you who took the durable oath, those of you who pledged to support America through the Pledge of Allegiance, you've got one more fight. One more fight. I mean, most of us are, come on, we're getting a little bit older. But the hunt's not over. And Republic hinges on what you do. Mr. Trump won Michigan by 10,000 votes. My name is Lawrence Peter. I have some business cards here. They're so new, I had to write my name in on them. They all have my name and my email address. I invite all of you, if you're interested in saving the Republic, keeping America great, maybe greater than it's ever been, then I need you. Mr. Trump needs you, and we need to win. This region, too, contributed a net plus of 60,000 votes. If you're worried about Detroit, young lady back there, you know what? Don't focus on the things you can affect. Yeah, it's a problem. I get that. Kent County is a problem. Yeah, I get that. Macomb's a county problem. I get that. All of those problems are their problems. We can't solve the world, but we can solve where we live. And that means I need you. He needs you. The Republic needs you to support and defend against all enemies, foreign and domestic. If not now, when? If not you, who? If not here, where? So, with all that, if anyone has any questions, I'll stand by. I know it's getting late. Yes, sir?
I wasn't going to say anything tonight, but you invoked the Constitution several times, so.
You're not a lawyer, are you?
Close.
Please.
No. I served as a Marine in Vietnam on the DMZ for 13 months. And I have a friend, his name is Bryce Lockwood. And Bryce Lockwood welcomed the president in Missouri about a year and a half ago on the tarmac when he came in on his plane. You're in the Navy. Bryce Lockwood is the only surviving Marine on the USS Liberty. I don't know if you ever heard of it.
I have. Sure I have.
I've written 100 letters to politicians. And none of them will give men who died to protect the Constitution the right to due process. They give all sorts of crappy reasons, you know, it was an accident. The Israelis now have admitted that they knew that the ship was American. And I'm an honorary USS Liberty veteran. But I think this country is totally corrupt. I think the Republican Party is corrupt. I think the Democratic Party is corrupt. It's the reason in towns in Michigan, northern Michigan, half the stores are empty, or no, maybe not half, but quite a few. There are good jobs in China. We pay 4 times the amount for medicines than Canada. 70% of the people have no money. I mean, they live from paycheck to paycheck in America. I think the whole system is corrupt. And I'm just telling you, I hope you can take that message back, because they're going to lose people like me. If there was a third party that was conservative, I'd vote for them. And it's not the Liberty or the Green Party for me, the Libertarian Party. But I'm just telling you how I feel. They've corrupted the system. The Republican and Democratic parties only care about the big corporations, in my view, where they get their money.
So. I agree with you completely. And you know, when you look at the corruption that we see in the government, I think that this is what we're going to see a lot come out if these investigations go forward. Take a look at Ukraine. It's pretty clear that Ukraine was nothing but a great big washing machine. You know, money from IMF, money from everyone was just going in there and it was then coming back out and getting paid to any one of a number of people. I wouldn't be surprised if it just wasn't American politicians getting it, but also politicians throughout Europe. Unbelievable when we translate from the rule of law to the law of rule. And you recall what that man said that I mentioned to you earlier. It's not enough to simply beat Trump. But who is Trump in that case? He's a proxy, right? He must be destroyed thoroughly. His kind must not rise again. That's every single one of us. You know, they have a desire to place us all under their thumb. It's awful hard for me to recommend to any young man or woman to join our military services today, but I look for people of good character and fine moral standing. And I say, gosh, you know, we still have to have good leaders there. It's not done yet. We're not going to stick a fork in America yet. Our best days might still be ahead of us, but it will only be ahead of us if you come out and help. Sir, please. Yes, sir.
Who's this person you're quoting? I missed something.
A man is named David Plouffe, P-L-O-U-F-F-E, and he was the campaign manager for the man who won the position as 44th President of the United States. He's still pretty significant. He wound up becoming a senior advisor to that president, replacing Mr. Axelrod in that position. Yeah, these are the kind of people that are out there. Hey, you, peon, get in the back of the bus. You know, Washington's corrupt anyhow. I never took any duty in there. I never would. I could smell it from when I was overseas. It's true. But we got to do something. We got to do something, because to do nothing is to give up hope. And without hope, we might as well all be dead. If you don't have hope, you have nothing. If you don't have hope, you don't believe in God. You don't believe in redemption. You don't believe in a future for your children, your grandchildren, or your great-great-grandchildren. We need you. The Republic needs you now. Every single one of you. Any other questions? Yes, sir.
I could probably talk about the microphone.
Yes, sir.
Just to leave the group up with a positive note. Last spring or summer, my wife and I worked for 4 hours in a booth at Bear Lake Days, a little small town here, the GOP booth. And for 4 hours, I had people come walking up to the booth, buying our flag, and it said Trump 2020 on it and so forth. And young, middle-aged, and old, all saying, I got to be quiet because my neighbor's a Democrat. I don't want to get in trouble with him. And I heard this for 4 hours, and I thought to myself, at the end of the 4 hours, he's in. There's no problem. It's a silent majority that nobody's talking about, and all of a sudden, on November 9th or whatever the day after the election is, Democrats are going to wake up and say, what was the name of that train that ran over us?
Well, I certainly hope and I'd like to believe that, but you know what? You got to work for it. And I'd like to add just 2 things to that. Anyone here on Twitter? You do Twitter at all? Well, okay, don't worry about Twitter, but just do the act. Whenever I see a Trump sign or I see a Trump bumper sticker on a car, I honk my horn. I drive by someone's house, I see Trump, I honk my horn. And if you do Twitter, it's #HonkForTrump. And I encourage all of you all, when you see someone doing it, let them know you are not alone. Be not afraid, men and women. Be not afraid. Don't be afraid to support the president, because, my goodness, he's not afraid to support us. So reciprocate it every chance you get. Honk for Trump, and if need be, paint your own sign. And let people honk for you, for him, for us, for the Republic. Thank you. Thank you.
I just want to go back quickly on one point that Lawrence made early. It's about Attorney General Barr's speech to Notre Dame, the Federalist Society. They are on YouTube. I have seen both of them, and they are fantastic. I'd strongly recommend it. You go back and listen to them. What do we got? With that, is there anything else from the audience? Anybody have anything you want to say to the group?
No. I am Karen Goodman. I am your county commissioner here in Manistee, and I'm also a Democrat. And I wasn't going to say anything today, but I just wanted to say that in our community, in Manistee community, you know, you made the comments, you know, Dems don't come out, don't work. I mean, you know, I guess I get discouraged when we throw people in buckets. You know, not all Democrats don't show up or do a job. I do a job, I do several jobs. You guys see me everywhere. You know, I'm trying to represent the people of the community, and that's the thing I really want to point out about local government, which is wonderful. We're very bipartisan. We cooperate with each other, whether a person's a Democrat. I mean, that's why I'm here. If you're a Republican and you're a Tea Party member, I represent you. So tell me what it is. Tell me what you need. You know, and I just want people to remember that. You know, your choice is your choice, who you vote for. And I'm probably, I'll tell you, I'm one of those people for the Democratic Party that makes them nervous, because I am a Democratic Reagan voter. You know, so I vote for the candidates, and I think a lot of people will, but I just want to say that to you. It's like, who you choose to vote for, who you feel best with, that's your choice, and I support that. But on a local level, I hope that if you ever feel as if we're going down that line and not representing you completely and with one voice, then I encourage you to call or talk to me. I know that the chair is very open, I'm very open, I'm the vice chair, I'm very happy to take any comments you have. So that's really just, I wanted to make the difference between what goes on up here politically and what's going on here. I hope you feel that we don't really take sides, that we try to do what we can do for you. All right?
And what Karen says is truthful, because she puts in a god-awful lot of hours being a county commissioner. And it's for everybody's benefit, whether you're a Democrat or Republican, it doesn't matter. And it really doesn't matter to the Tea Party either. It just so happens that we're a conservative organization. We believe in the Constitution and conservatism. It's that simple. And nothing farther, deeper than that. That's just the way it is. And our county commissioners do a great job, and they put in a lot of time. And it would be nice if some people would show up to the meetings and lend them their support, one way or the other, and voice their opinions also. She's giving me money. See, I gave her such a good plug now. So now what? Somebody's going to run against her district. Okay, thank you.
Okay, and also thank you, Karen, for those remarks. I know Karen somewhat, not a lot, but I do know from her peers that she works with that certainly if you have issues, you can certainly call her. Does anyone else have anything else to say? Okay, with that then, wish you all a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year, and hopefully we'll see you next January. Thank you.
I'm in the bungalow parking lot.